Yeah, I think that's a good observation, Courtney. I think that some of it was just their defense. We got a lot of split safety tonight, very soft, in coverage. Just didn't lend itself to taking shots. And then when you do take shots, their pass rush was able to have more time to get home. So taking some shorter throws, intermediate throws, where the ball was getting out quicker and trying to find holes in their zone coverages. That was something I think we were able to do and mix in throughout the game. When you're a top defense, it's likely because you're not giving up many explosive plays. And I'm sure that, that's part of the reason they've been so good this year.
Welcome in to Purple Daily. Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, Declan Goff producing, and our friend from ESPN.com, Courtney Cronin. And just to play this again.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, Courtney.
Courtney, you are awarded your first good question point of the season. That brings our
I've gotten a couple of those. That's not my first one. I'm not keeping score or anything.
If you bring the evidence to the show, then you'll continue to climb the standings. On the season, I have 22. Judd has 20. Rami had 9. Declan with 1, and now Courtney has tied Declan with 1. And so,
but you might have more.
Yeah, no. I mean, Kirk and I have a good relationship. I think. I think that I've been tough on him. Out of need at points this season, and he's always handled it like a professional. I will give him that. He I think I've been as critical as anybody on this beat on Kirk Cousins in kind of calling out some of the issues that showed up early on. But when you ask him a football question, he's willing to go into detail with you. I think that's the one thing you can really appreciate about him as a quarterback. Kind of being able to peel back the curtain and give you a little bit more insight on, what was going on during the game. And but you're not the first person who's told me that within the last 12 hours. I've gotten several texts about that. I'm like, yeah, is it really that big of a deal?
Did you pump your fist when he said it?
I did not. Right. I did not.
Right.
It's a great point.
So, all right, before we get to the day after Vikings games, we do Viking statements. This is your first appearance on a Viking statements episode of Purple Daily. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But the Vikings and the Vikings fans that watched that game last night are very happy. I think everyone has kind of changed their tune from tank for Trevor to, oh my God, now there's 3 straight home games. The Vikings could legitimately run 6 straight wins off. In Chicago, the vibe is a little bit different. And so thanks to our producers, Declan Goff, and last night, Andrew helping us out here, we have dug up some Bears vent line, courtesy of our friends at The Score in Chicago and also ESPN 1000.
The idea that you think that he's going to somehow, beat out Aaron Rodgers in a competition for more touchdowns, you're delusional, all of you. Not you two, but the listening audience. The biggest problem that I have with the folks that you guys are talking about is that you're leaving out one basic component to this discussion. Nick Foles is being cruel the way they're treating him. The fact that the Bears haven't addressed the offensive line is not Nick Foles' fault. He's a cerebral passer. And by the way, Anthony Miller dropped a beautiful pass in the downfield pass that Nick Foles had. Trubisky can't throw downfield. You had 3 years of watching him, and now you want to go back and retrograde. You want to go back and retrograde Trubisky? Guess what? I hope you do it. I hope all you morons that are so stupid and lost in the sauce with Trubisky's going to be. You guys are a bunch of losers.
So things
your hometown, Cronin.
Well.
Retrograde, like Mercury in retrograde.
That's what I said. We all said that. Retrograde him.
I said this after I remember remember when the Bears played the Packers when Rodgers hurt his knee and then came back and was Superman in 2018, that first game. I just remember thinking the next day, I really can't wait to hear Chicago sports radio, because after just growing up there, after bad losses and just nonsensical things that happen to Chicago sports teams, there is no more toxic of a place than 670, The Score, or ESPN 1000. And the amount of times I've heard Trubinsky stinks, things like that. But you have to have an accent from Joliet or Palatine. That guy who was just on the call, I didn't really hear it. That didn't really accentuate it enough to my liking to be yeah, that's home. But yeah, when Chicago sports radio is just like a fun place, especially when they lose. Like, it's honestly better when the teams are losing because it's more entertaining.
Actually, I think we might have some of this. Here's some stuff from last year that might actually suit the Chicago flavor more for you.
It's beyond belief. And you got to say, oh, well, don't go crazy and say, oh, they won. Hey, folks, what are you trying to do? What is the objective?
My God, 16 games to make yourself a world championship. Last year, we win 12 games, 11 on defense. And they had everything going for them, every break. And coming into this year, does the coaching staff realize it? Has Mitch Trubisky realized it? Is he a better quarterback this year than he was the prior year or the prior year before that? No, he's gone backwards. And whose fault is it? Nagy.
Knew that was coming at the end.
And now it's just the hosts. That's not even the caller.
I know. I was about to say, was that Mongo?
No, that was Obradovich. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the first one was Hampton. So you're talking about, is it Steve Mongo McMichael?
Yes.
That guy, by the way, went from like playing for the Bears, and then he was like a WCW wrestler for a while. Then he got into radio.
Yeah, he's a real piece of work. But no, I mean, like, I think that it's crazy when you walk into this season and the Bears are 4-1 to start, and kind of where they are now. Like, that staff may not be there at the end of the year because Ryan Pace was already kind of on thin ice. I mean, every time you hear about the fact that the Bears could have drafted Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes, I'm sure that the McCaskey family is getting more restless every single time they have to hear one of those references. But now I think it's a matter of, they're not going to win with this roster. They're wasting the prime of this defense. This offense is putrid. Like, I thought last year's Bears offense was really bad, but this year is completely non-existent. Like, Allen Robinson, I hope you spread your wings and fly away. Go somewhere else better next year. Those 4 straight drives that they had to open the second half, where I think the third one was like they netted -5 yards, something like that. Like, changing the play calling didn't do you any favors. It's not going to do you any favors. The offense is bad. I don't know what that was in 2018. I really do think that was a fluke where Matt Nagy has this cool Kansas City. We're going to run a lot of like sweeps and pre-snap motion and all this stuff. And they got one good year out of Mitchell Trubisky, as like my Chicago brethren likes to refer to him as. I'm like, it's not that hard. You don't need to put an N in there. It's like people say Clemson. It's Clemson. Anyway,
that's more fun that way, Courtney.
Drives me nuts. But no, I mean, like, I don't see how this staff survives, given where they're at now. Yes, they're 5-5. They're still ahead of the Bears still ahead of the Vikings and Detroit by a game in the NFC North standings. But this is not a good team, and your defense, you just wasted all of you had the very small window to begin with. And you're wasting that window. It's closing. It's probably pretty much already shut because you can't tell me that they're going to be able to somehow bounce back from that and win a couple games here down the stretch, go 9-7, get the wild card spot. I just don't see it.
You can't run. They cannot run.
No, it's embarrassing.
Dude, I mean, Cordell Patterson is literally their starting running back right now.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out.
Trying to hit guys.
I can't figure that part out. And I mean, last night, when Zim's playing, a version of a cover 2, Tampa 2, where, it's soft coverage, he's daring you to run. Then he'll switch it up. But I mean, the reason he's doing that is to protect his safeties. He essentially got away with murder there because it's like your young corners are who you're protecting by having 2 deep safeties. And you're basically saying, hey guys, run on us. And that's the only thing that would cause them to make a change there. But they didn't. Like, I think Chicago netted 44 yards, something like that total in the run game. And it's, there were a couple chunk plays in there, but it just was not enough. Yeah, they had 41 yards rushing last night. That's just awful. But granted, I know that they were without Montgomery and they've had some issues with the run game, but they don't even have that, which is, honestly, ever since Jordan Howard left, that run game has just gone out the window.
Yep. Amen. So actually, let's give you one more Bears vent line for the road here, and then we'll get to Vikings statements. Bear down, Chicago Bears.
think Carmen DeFalco tweeted that before that final drive, they had only had 14 yards in offense in the second half. That's just ridiculous. And then 3rd and 4 in 4-down territory, and you throw a screen pass 5 yards behind the line. Like what that doesn't make any sense.
That sounds
I just don't get it.
familiar.
Jeff Howard, thanks. I just want to cry. I don't know. I go from being frustrated a couple days every week after the game, to getting excited, and then the day after I'm hungover and sad, and that's my Tuesday tomorrow.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
Hungover and sad.
And a Tuesday, no less.
Yeah, Tuesday. That's tough.
So, Deck, let's fire up some appropriate tunes here, and let's go around the room and let's empty our bag of Viking statements. We'll start with Judd. We'll go Judd, me, Courtney, Declan, and we'll make our rounds here. So, fire away, Judd.
All right, statement number 1. And after a 1-5 start, I cannot believe I'm going to say this, but I am, and I'm going to say it with a certain amount of confidence. Mike Zimmer is doing the best coaching job that he has done in his 7 years as the Vikings head coach. These last three games, he has come up with defensive schemes that take his young talent and give them an opportunity to succeed. He's come up with blitz packages that he doesn't love to do, but they work. Beyond that, too, we can argue until the cows come home about offensive philosophy and the run game in 2020 and what your quarterback should do. But these last 3 games, including last night especially, this offense has hit on ideas that basically work, which is a lot of Cook. I mean, he's going to touch the ball a ridiculous amount of times. I think it was 34 touches last night, but that puts Cousins in a position to succeed. So Zimmer is doing, I really think, at least these last 3 games, the best coaching job that he has done in his 7 years in charge of the Vikings.
Yeah. I mean, think about this. Like, he has turned this defense around mostly with rookies and backups. He's maintained the trust and belief of players after a disastrous start. And he now owns, including the playoffs, he's 2-3 in the playoffs. He now owns a 63-46-1 record as a head coach without ever really having spectacular quarterback play, Courtney, at any point in those 7 years. And so, body of work, Mike Zimmer has been damn good, and he has fewer pieces that you would consider experienced or credible on defense, and he's making it work these last few weeks.
Yeah, I was incredibly impressed with the front 7 last night. It's not hard to fluster Nick Foles. And I mean, I know that the fans that were calling into Bears vent line were moaning about the offensive line play. And yeah, it's not great. They've had a lot of injuries there. They had some COVID concerns there, but it's not like a patchwork unit. It's not terrible. Like, they were not the reason that Foles was a mess last night. That was on Nick Foles. And I think when you look at, how they've worked the interior of that offensive line to get some defensive line to get some push in there, and some of the blitz packages that Judd mentioned using, Eric Wilson, I mean, honestly, is probably, if I'm Anthony Barr, I'm sweating my job a little bit for next year, because Wilson has been playing out of his mind. And if you package him with Kendricks, you've got your double A gap look right there with those two. You don't necessarily need Barr anymore. Maybe that's a stretch, but we'll see. No, I mean, I think even like a guy like Hercules Mataafa, who was on the active roster, got relegated to the practice squad and then got called up a little bit ago. Like, those guys are all kind of coming into their own. And I know this is the one thing that nobody who is a sports fan wants to admit to. Sometimes you need time to be able to like work out the kinks. And yeah, when you only have 16 games in a season, that's tough. Like, I'm sure it works differently obviously it works differently in the NBA. In baseball, it's obviously different, but like in the NFL, it's hard because you have such a limited sample size and limited body of work to kind of, work all out, all of like smooth out some of the wrinkles. But no, I mean, I was really impressed with the defense last night, especially as I mentioned before, what they did to open the second half. But also, I mean, you put them back on the field with less than 50 seconds to go. And yeah, Foles had gone out because of the hip injury or whatever it is, and they've got whoever the hell the backup is. I don't even know what his name is.
Boyd something.
I don't know. It wasn't Kyle Sloter. I was really hoping
his name was.
So was I.
It was not Kyle Sloter.
But no, I mean, you can trust. I mean, yes, Bears are terrible. Their offense is so bad that like I would have faith probably in the defense regardless. But I think it's kind of a statement at this point, 10 weeks into the season, that you're not biting your nails and holding your breath, being like, I really hope this defense can pull it out. If you're Mike Zimmer, the way that you were in Green Bay 2 weeks ago, again, vastly different offenses and the capabilities at the quarterback position, but the defense was able to be on the field and close out the game and not make it feel like it was going to be close there at the end. That's big.
Tyler Bray, by the way. Let's put some respect on his name. All right.
Who is he?
Tyler Bray.
Where's he from?
Yeah, no one knows. No one.
Do we have a college on this young man? I have no idea.
State. I don't know.
We'll find
from
it.
Here.
We'll Declan will get all of his background information.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Statement number 2. I'm going to put kind of 2 in 1 here. So part 1 is Kirk Cousins played a great game last night. And Gary Kubiak, just to continue praising the coaching staff, Gary Kubiak has figured out exactly how to use Kirk Cousins over these last few games. You stick with the running game as much as possible. Even the threat of the running game is important to sort of letting Kirk play off of, play action and bootlegs. And then you unleash Kirk on the things that he's comfortable in. And then you dial up a small handful of downfield throws. And a credit to Kirk, he's found Justin Jefferson more often than not since week 2. He's found Justin Jefferson between the 20s, and then he's found Adam Thielen inside the red zone. And so I just think like Mike Zimmer's been great, and Gary Kubiak went back to the drawing board during the bye week and said, all right, what is the best? How can we avoid all these interceptions? But what's the best way to leverage what Kirk Cousins can do and avoid the things that he can't do? And last night was just, they didn't score as many points as you probably figured they should. But I thought last night was a masterpiece game plan too by Gary Kubiak.
No, I agree with you. I think that Gary has his fastball. And we're truly seeing the Gary Kubiak offense play out in real time. Think of it this way. It's Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and then a tight end. It could have been Irv Smith if he was not hurt, but it was Kyle Rudolph, and Kyle played tremendously last night. You don't need anybody else. Like, this is not a team that needs a number 3 receiver as much as they try to force that idea upon themselves every year. That's just not the case. Chad Beebe had 1 good catch on third down. That's great. BC Johnson, I think he dropped that pass. I don't know. You just don't need everybody else. Put them on the practice squad. Have 10 cornerbacks. I don't care. You just need to stop trying to figure that you're trying to be like every other team in the league that has at least 3 receiving options, because what do we know about a Gary Kubiak offense historically since his first play calling gig in 1995? The tight end is a number 3 receiver. That is what this is, and that's playing out in real time.
Sure.
You'll force skill guys in a Gary Kubiak offense, also throwing in the running back. I'll call him the skill guy. It's cool.
What's your confidence at this point that Dalvin can keep this up? Because, this is the one part of the equation that we're growing accustomed to now, but we're talking, again, about 34 touches. That is an incredible count. And for a guy who's certainly been hurt in the past, it's asking a lot. What's your confidence? Because to me, he's the key piece here. If you pull the Dalvin piece out and are like, oh, try it now, it becomes very tough. So just in examining things, what is your confidence, Courtney, that he can continue on this path and be effective and be used this much?
I think they're just kind of grip it and rip it at this point. We're going to see how far he can take us. If he gets hurt, we'll figure it out from there. Because that's honestly what it feels like when you're running him 30 times and it's 3.2 yards per carry last night. He was fighting his ass off to be able to get anything past that defensive line. He wasn't breaking off big runs. They had great, force and contain. They were keeping him on the edge. They were forcing him outside, and he wasn't able to be the Dalvin home run hitter that you saw against Detroit, that you saw against Green Bay and at other points this season. But they're going to ride him. They don't have any other choice. Like you said, Phil, this is the offensive philosophy that works for them. It's trust Kirk in certain situations. If it has to be a 60-40, 70-30, I'd say 70% 70 on Dalvin in that, and then 30 on Kirk Cousins. That, and the rest of the passing offense, and it worked. What did he say a few weeks ago? It was we have too many of the home run plays, too many of the explosive plays. We need to go for more singles and doubles. That was actually the answer to the question that I asked him that you played at the top of the show, and it was
a great question, by the way.
Well, that's what we finally saw it in real time, because you saw some really good intermediate throws, some short throws at first. You're nickel and diming, chunk yardage your way down on that first drive that was very methodical, and had it not been for the fumble, they would have scored there on that first drive because it just felt like everything was being executed perfectly. And then once you can do that, you can take a deeper shot. You can go 8 to 12 yards with Kyle Rudolph, and you can up that to like 15 to 20. I mean, I think it honestly worked. And then when you're on third down, you're not afraid to take a deep shot off play action to find Justin Jefferson for a 54-yard reception. I mean, they're picking their spots and they're very wise about it. It's not, I felt like this offense was very predictable early on, that, in order to get Kirk Cousins comfortable and get him confident, you would, draw up a bunch of bootlegs early on. And it's like the defense is sniffing that out. They know it's coming. Now I'm not so sure that, the defenses that we've seen, and this was, one of the best defenses on third down, specifically in the NFL, and the Bears. And Kirk played out of his mind on third down. He was 10 of 11 for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's a byproduct not only of Cousins but of the play calling.
Yeah. By the way, Dex, did we get any family information on Tyler Bray?
Tyler Bray. We should have called up Chip Scoggins. He's a Tennessee Vol. 3 years of Tennessee.
Rocky Top guy.
Top 5 in Tennessee all time in touchdowns, yards, completion, and attempts. He's
a long time ago.
5th, and 4th.
Why don't I remember him?
2010 to 2012.
Yeah,
That's
he's like 10 years ago Tennessee guy.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, he had a big junior season. He threw 34 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. I'm sure all 12 of those were devastating for Chip Scoggins as well. Courtney, statement number 3, fire away.
So I said on this show a couple weeks ago that I think it might have even been last week that I would eat my words essentially, even though I wasn't that critical, but I was more along the lines of, I think you should be rebuilding. I think that even a first round playoff berth and then an exit in the first round, what does that do for your roster long term? I mean, that's neither here nor there at this point. But the Vikings, they took a gamble on themselves at the trade deadline saying we're going to stay put with what we have right now because we think we can win in 2020. Well, they proved that. They are back in contention. They are 3-0 to start the stretch after the bye. Coming out of the bye, Rick Spielman was asked about how far will you need to know to know that how long will it take to know how far or how close you are to being back in contention? And he said, well, we have, 5 division games coming up, including 3 to start out the second half of the season for us. We'll know pretty soon. And that's true. They do know that they can win with this roster. There are a lot of 4 and 5 teams out there right now that are kind of still this mystery. And I think the Vikings fall into that category, but I do think that given their schedule and given what they've done, they figured it out on defense. They figured it out on offense. For now, you can beat teams like Carolina, Jacksonville, Dallas, these 2, NFC North fools again. That's fine. That's 5 wins right there. Can you beat Tampa Bay? Can you beat the Saints? I mean, will Drew Brees even be playing on Christmas Day? Who knows? But this team is a playoff team. That is my statement because
wow,
a lot of, and it's not necessarily a byproduct of how good or bad they are or are not. That was an ugly game last night. That was really ugly. Both of those 2 teams deserved each other. But if you want to be ugly, that's fine. But as long as it's efficient for the Vikings and you get a win, then that's okay. So I think that they're in a spot where they know they're not elite. They know that they have a long way to go. But if they can keep just kind of riding this hot hand of what they've figured out works for them for now, why wouldn't you?
Ugly but efficient. I feel like Judd used that on his Match.com profile one time a few years back.
That's all that's important. Efficiency is the key to life, okay? You don't have to be pretty. You have to be efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Efficiency lasts.
Then Don's all
looks don't last. Looks don't last. Do you know what does last? The efficiency of everything.
Dex, what's statement number 4? Declan.
Yeah. Mine is Eric Wilson is going to get paid. I mean, this dude is having a phenomenal season. Right now, he is on pace for just an insane career year, 108 tackles, 6 sacks. The dude is going to be a UFA this year. Mm-hmm. Anthony Barr is still due a good amount of money next year. And according to Over the Cap, I know you were looking at Spotrac, Phil, when we were recording Mackey and Judd earlier this afternoon. And I don't think they can really cut him without having – they'd have to restructure without just swallowing a ton of money in 2020. So, I mean, do you want – to basically assume the fact that Anthony Barr is going to bounce back and eventually get to that glass ceiling? Or can you either restructure and or move on and trade Anthony Barr? Because I think right now you know what you're getting in Eric Wilson, and I feel like he's the more steadier player, but it might not be from the Vikings because this dude's going to get paid, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's what can they do then? So I was accounting for the 2021 dead money, but there's money beyond that too. And Eric Wilson's probably going to, he's probably going to get a bump to like $8-9 million a year in free agency. You don't want to be paying 3 linebackers in 2020, so you'd have to get rid of Anthony Barr in some way.
Yeah, so I was looking this up the other day. So he has a $12.7 million cap hit this year. And the way that they structured that contract when he was like, oh, no, I'm so sad. I want to come back to the Vikings. Okay, bye, Jets. Is that like the cap numbers just go up like in an absurd manner, from here on out, like for where it was to 2020 in 2020. And then obviously with like 2021 is a $15.5 million cap hit. He's not on the roster. Like they're at that number next year. Absolutely not. It goes 15.5, 15.6, 18.1 in 2023, but they backloaded it. That's what they do with these contracts. So he's due a $12.3 million base salary next year, and only 7.1 of that is guaranteed at signing for injury. So, and that becomes guaranteed on the third day of the league year next year. So I think the Vikings go to him and talk restructure, because when they came back, when he came back, I think they overpaid for him, but they were loyal and they wanted to keep him. He has been outplayed by Eric Kendricks, and certainly, obviously, he's hurt this season, so who knows? But looks like he's being, if you were just kind of comparing things over the last few years, looks like he's being outplayed by Eric Wilson. I think the Vikings have a lot of leverage here to go to the table and be like, if you want to stay here, we're going to have to restructure that deal down considerably, because they do not have a lot of financial resources next year. I mean, I think he's the second or third highest cap hit next year for Minnesota. So, I mean, it's certainly, it's not a good spot for them to be in right now when they've got to pay Cousins. They got to potentially pay Danielle Hunter. Who knows? But
it's a good one.
I think that they will end up having to have that, come to Jesus talk with Barr and be like, look, we like all 3 of you. We want to keep all 3 of you. Are we going to be able to do it? I don't know. I mean, because you're right, Phil, cutting him there'd be a lot of financial penalty for that, of carrying dead cap. I don't know. Maybe they'd be able to trade him if he wasn't hurt. Who knows?
Yeah. Judd, statement number 5. Let's make one more lap around the room here.
2-part statement, but the second part that I'm going to give you is extremely important. Justin Jefferson is a star with no ego at this point. The second part is the most important part, because if he's asked to play a big role like he was against the Bears, he's outstanding. And if he's not, which is too bad at times, but can fall within the confines of what Kubiak wants to do offensively, especially with Dalvin being the star, you don't have him going to the media. You don't hear about any bickering behind the scenes. He doesn't hold a sudden press conference to say that there's truth in all rumors. But he won't clarify what the truth might be. So the important thing is he's outstanding and he is a star, but the rookie is doing it with no ego at this point. That will change eventually, probably. But for right now, it's extremely important, and it keeps a lot of peace where peace didn't exist last year. And if Stephon Diggs was going through this year as a Viking with the ups and the downs, I guarantee you it wouldn't be as peaceful as it is with Jefferson right now.
I mean, look at what it was last year through 4 weeks, and then he skips out on practice. I mean, to be fair, Diggs was like a Jefferson early on. He was I remember being at the studios at 1500, doing an interview with him. Like my first one-on-one I did with him was about a CenturyLink boost box. And that was after the day after the Monday Night Football game in 2017, the opener against the Saints. And there was no ego. That was kind of when he was just kind of coming into his own. And then miracle Stephon Diggs happened, and that changed a lot of things. I mean, Justin Jefferson is a first-round star. He was an absolute stud at LSU, and he knows that. And everybody on this team knows that too. I think the fact of his age and the fact that he's still a rookie is helping his case in terms of, like we were saying, Judd, kind of keeping peace in the locker room and making sure everybody gels and fits together, because this is not a guy who's like, yeah, I'm the best receiver on this team, when he very easily is right now. This is somebody who's still like, Adam Thielen, tell me more. I want to learn everything. Like, I'm a golden retriever. I just want to please everybody. Like, he's just so happy. And I think that that's contagious, and that rubs off on everybody else. And that's what's making for so much harmony. It's somebody who wants to be a sponge. Like, honestly, I see a lot of Dalvin Cook in the way that Justin Jefferson is right now and is received in that locker room and received really by everybody on the team.
Yeah. And if you just look at the numbers too, I mean, it's hard not to call him a top 10 receiver in the NFL right now. Yardage, he's 7th, yards per reception. And that can be a little bit deceiving that some guys are there to run shorter routes. Like Stephon Diggs is 12 yards per reception. Justin Jefferson's 18 yards per reception. And the catch percentage can be deceiving too, but he has one of the highest catch percentages at 78% in the NFL. I want to go to the Bears star wide receiver for a second for statement number 6, which is not only are the Bears bad at football, they are also extremely dysfunctional. Last night during the game, so the Bears were whiffing in the red zone like they usually do, and Allen Robinson's agent. So Allen Robinson he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, and they've had some back and forth about him not getting paid and stuff. So he tweets during one of the failure red zone sequences, should Allen Robinson not be the first read in the red zone 99% of the time? Only team in the league that won't throw it to the wide receiver 1 in the red zone. Same guy who's leading the team in contested catches. What's really going on? You have Allen Robinson's agent during a Monday Night Football game insinuating that they are limiting his targets in the red zone to keep his money value down. I am here for it.
I am with the agent. I am on his side here. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's hilarious. But like he's not just saying like, what are you doing, you idiots? He's saying, what are you doing? Are you doing this on purpose to make sure my client doesn't get paid in the middle of a playoff run? It looks like they are, though. You guys, it looks like they are. Like they are actively, offensively sabotaging themselves continually, and it's the damnedest thing. I don't know. That's hilarious. It's hilarious.
That is really funny.
All right, Courtney.
I did see that tweet.
Statement number 7.
My statement is that Kirk Cousins is becoming a fourth quarter superstar.
Wow.
So he has the NFL's best passer rating in the fourth quarter, 137.2. And he only is behind Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson with 7 fourth quarter touchdowns. So I know that a lot of this is garbage time stuff. Like we go back to the Green Bay game, and
be careful here.
I know I'm treading a very thin line here.
We have a couple people that are. I won't give out too much information, but there are a couple VIPs that are watching this right now, and we have a couple people in the chat, and we've had a couple requests for this.
Oh boy! Yes.
Hot Take Cops is recorded on location with the men and women of sports talk. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in Hot Take Court.
Wow.
Wow, I got slapped with that one. Okay.
Yeah,
I had no clue that was coming.
Question point, and now you get pulled over by the Hot Take Cops. Congratulations.
The numbers don't lie. A 132 passer rating in the fourth quarter. That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, what did he do last night? Does anybody want to talk about the fact that he has his first game-winning drive this season after failing to do it against Tennessee, after failing to do it against the Seahawks? I mean, he really didn't have a whole ton of time. Like, I'm not going to blame that on him. Against Seahawks, even though cumulative effect wise, he probably could have played better in that game. Nonetheless, moot point. That's a big deal because this is somebody that we talked about. Like, he can't pick his team up in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line and lead them across the finish line. He did that. The 54-yard pass to Justin Jefferson on 3rd and 11 line them up to be able to get into scoring position. They obviously did not convert. They were kicking the field goal, but that's 13-13. And then he hits Adam Thielen on that 6-yard touchdown to go up 19-13. Thanks a lot, Austin Cutting. But no, I really do think that something's clicking there with Kirk Cousins, because it's not like you're asking him to do it all the time. The offensive philosophy kind of is working its magic there. And plus the Bears at that point were so gashed. Akeem Hicks was off the field. They were finally able to run, but put some respect on Kirk for that. He finally has his game-winning drive in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm.
That is
some respect. I like it.
That is his second career as a Viking, career game-winning drive in
Denver with the other
seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it wasn't a fourth quarter comeback because they were tied going into the fourth quarter. So he only has one completed fourth quarter comeback.
Hey, he played really well.
Yeah,
he played a really solid game. There's no way around it.
Dex, what's your final statement? Statement number 8 here.
Mine is keep feeding Dalvin Cook. So yesterday the Vikings give Dalvin Cook 30 carries. And the Bears held him in check. Like if you're Chicago and you look at the box score of it, you're like, oh, 3.2 yards. We held the best running back in football essentially to 3.2 yards. We did our job. Well, then the Vikings offense was still able to rebound. They were still to be complimentary. Kirk Cousins plays well. Justin Jefferson makes plays. They scored 19 points against a pretty damn good defense. Now, you probably want to score in that 21 range to be guaranteed a win, but the offensive philosophy, even when Dalvin wasn't working, still ended up working victorious for the Vikings. So I say keep feeding Dalvin Cook. I know there's some trepidation about how many touches can you really give this dude, because he had, 34 touches yesterday, which was a season high. But keep feeding Dalvin, because even when it doesn't work, you saw what the complimentary pieces can do around him.
I think we need some t-shirts. I saw some people on Twitter tweeting early in that game, Dalvin Cook has been established. If we're looking to establish the run, I think Dalvin Cook going into the game has been established.
Zim
Make
loves
it a t-shirt.
Zim loves this.
Yeah,
this is so Zim.
It is. And I mean, this is the way that they want to win games. And if you think about what Derrick Henry did the previous week to Chicago, same yards per carry, 3.2. They made him work for it. I think Dalvin's production actually, when you look at bigger picture wise, and obviously he had more rushing yards, like he was a better back than Derrick Henry, who currently I still think as of right now leads the league in rushing. So I mean, there's no doubt in my mind who the best running back in the NFL is right now, and that's Dalvin Cook.
Hey, final thing for you here, Courtney. We played this clip on Mackey and Judd, and I feel like I'm going to play you back-to-back clips. I feel like Mike Zimmer was trying to recreate a moment and then forgot the line. So here's the back-to-back, all right?
Hey, you held him to 20 points, man. You gave us a chance at the end, but I got 3 words for you. You like that?
So, I heard it all week long, right? 0-9 on Monday night. You like how this tastes? Yeah.
I think
But you like how this tastes? How do you end up with that?
It's weird. It's sort of creepy. Like I think
it's super creepy.
I think
he was 60s.
I think he was going for that moment at the end of the the playoff, the Saints win. I think he was going for the hey, you've been hearing about it. 0-9 on Monday Night Football, and then he was supposed to say, "You like that?" And then he forgot the line.
You like how this tastes?
So I heard it all week long, right? 0-9 on Monday night. You like how this tastes?
Yeah. You got a question mark at the end of it. It scares me.
Yeah,
like when Kirk says you like that, there is an exclamation point.
Yes.
He's not asking if you like that. He's asking, you like that.
Yes.
Jim was like, do you like how that tastes? That's creepy.
It's so creepy.
It's super creepy.
It's not like Shaq asking Kobe how his ass tastes. It's not like that.
Right.
It's just like it was just it didn't hit. God
well,
bless
he just
him.
he flubbed it and forgot it. And plus, post game Kirk, give us something, Kirk. Like I wanted one defiant quote, like one bleep you people.
No, he was very mellow.
For me, it's all about playing well and doing my part. I've played long enough to know that there's not a lot you can control as a quarterback.
That's what he said he wanted to be.
But late in that game, he tipped his hand completely because he's like celebrating and he's yelling and gesticulating. It's like give me that just one post game. You columnists and beat writers and blah, you go shove it. I just proved something to you. Just give me something.
He's mature. He's mature now. He's a grown man.
I mean, he was going nuts on the sideline.
Yeah, he was. He was definitely fired up. Which
is fine.
A nice sight to see. For sure.
Do you like how that tastes?
No, I don't.
No, Mike. Mike, that's not the line. That was not the line.
That's I don't know. He might be loose this week because they played Dallas, and Dallas is not very good, even though they're probably getting Andy Dalton back. Like, I wonder if that would be something to be like, Mike, do you remember saying that after the game? Like, can you elaborate on that? Like, were you trying to be funny and try to be Kirk? Like,
I think it depends on who asked the question, Courtney.
I
think that's what we've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think if the right person asks the question, you'll get a good answer.
Yeah.
That is a wrap on this episode of Purple Daily. We appreciate Courtney Cronin joining us for this Viking Statements episode. You can follow her on Twitter at Courtney R. Cronin, and we will see you guys tomorrow.